to learn a little bit this evening. My name is Alec Goldstein. I'm the founder of Kodesh Press, which is the co-publisher of the book that we're here officially launching, The Legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah. The book is co-published by Orot, which is the publishing house that Rabbi Naor founded. Rabbi Naor doesn't need an introduction. He is a master and an authority recognized in Taras and Nigla and Taras and Nistar, and it's truly a privilege to be working with him. I'll share one quick personal reflection. Several weeks ago, I was on the phone with Rabbi Naor, and I was telling him that having founded Kodesh Press, I was exposed to much more than ever I thought I would have been exposed to. The stuff that I learned, the ideas, the concept, and I told him that I didn't have much exposure to Rav Kook, and what a privilege it is to be working with him on this book, and we had published a previous book as well, When God Becomes History, and he made a comment that not only are you getting Rav Kook, but you're getting it without a bias. You're just like what Rav Naor's work is in terms of Rav Kook and in terms of his numerous other writings, written dozens of other Sfarim, is just to present the Torah properly, to understand what Rav Kook is saying, or what the sources are saying, without the filter and without any of the polarization. And I think that that's really what Rav Kook himself was about, was trying to bring differing opinions together and really trying to get at some sort of emes. And I think that itself, that comment really resonated with me about who Rav Kook was and about who Rabbi Bezalel Naor is. I want to also mention that tonight's program is sponsored by Rabbi Eli Allen in loving memory of his father, Mr. Albert Allen, Avraham ben Salcha. Albert Allen was good friends with Rabbi Naor, and Albert's son, Rabbi Eli Allen, who made Aliyah about 4 years ago, they learned on and off and have known each other for about 30 years as well. And it is Avram ben Salcha's yahrzeit tonight, Ba'oso Hayom. It's 13 months, but it's Ba'oso Hayom because we had a leap year. So the learning tonight should be L'zecher Nishmas Avram ben Salcha. Without further ado, it is my distinct privilege and profound honor to introduce Rabbi Bezalel Naor.
Thank you.
Just in terms of the program, just in terms of the schedule, sorry. We're going to have the shiur, and then we'll do the Kaddish Rabbanan, then we'll do a Q&A, and then the books will be available for purchase and signing.
Well, since the theme was emes, truth, I'm not even chatzi emet, I'm not even half of truth. And that's the truth. Okay. So I want to thank everyone who came out tonight from Riverdale, from Marine Park, from Passaic, from Kensington. Thank you so much. The work that we're going to be discussing is the Legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah, and as you may have gathered by now, Rav Kook wrote a commentary on these legends. This is a portion of the Talmud. It's in Masechet Baba Batra, Perek Mocher Tesvina, and many commentaries have been written on these legends. Probably the two most famous are that of the Vilna Gaon and Rebbe Nachman of Breslov in Likutei Moharan. But there are innumerably many commentaries by now. More and more all the time. Rabbi Yosef Gabriel Bechhofer is written one. He's one of the reviewers of my book. So I'm not Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah. I'm not Rav Kook. So who am I? I'm the editor, okay? I'm the one who put this together. This was a manuscript of Rav Kook that he wrote as a very young man. He was 25 years old. I don't know if you're familiar with the dates of Rav Kook. He was born in 1865 in Griva, which is a suburb of Dvinsk, Latvia. And he transitioned in Gimel Elul, 1935, in Yerushalayim. In 1904, right before Shavuot, to Sader, Tafresh Samech Daled, he arrived in Yafo, which was the precursor of Tel Aviv, Yishuv HaChadash as opposed to Yishuv HaYashan, and took up his responsibility as the rabbi of Yafo Vehamoshavot. So his bailiwick extended to the communities surrounding, such as Rehovot and these other new Moshavot, colonies as they were called at that time. So in 1890, okay, at age 25, Rav Kook was the Rav of a little town called Zemel or Zoimel in Lita, and he penned this kabbalistic commentary to the legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah. And it's an extremely important work for anyone who is at all interested in understanding Rav Kook. The reason it is of paramount importance is at this early stage, Rav Kook does not engage in subterfuge or camouflage. He speaks Kabbalah openly in the language, in the technical language of Kabbalah. Later, if you're familiar with the writings of Kook, he learned to cloak his kabbalistic sources. He wrote beautiful Hebrew, and one can read Rav Kook and not be aware that he's coming from all of these kabbalistic sources, because it's such a wonderful job of camouflage. Two others who preceded him in this respect were the Maharal of Prague, right? That's Rav Yehuda ben Bezalel Naor, and Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. Both of them write beautiful Hebrew, and if you're not well informed, you might not know that they are Kabbalists. Especially so in the case of Maharal. You can read all of Maharal and it will never dawn on you that the man was a Mekubal. He was a Kabbalist. So Rav Kook follows in this tradition later, where he writes his beautiful Hebrew, never discloses his Kabbalistic sources. But in this early work, 1890, he's 25 years old, he writes in an openly Kabbalistic vein. He employs the language of Kabbalah. Not only that, he reveals his sources. He lets you know where exactly he's coming from. If it's the Kabbalah of the Vilna Gaon, if it's Chabad, the Likutei Torah, Reb Shneir Zalman, if it's Ramchal, he cites his sources. So therefore, this is a very important work. Now, the way I did it was, if you open right to left, you have Rav Kook's Hebrew original. If you open left to right, you get a translation. There are 15 of these legends. And Rav Kook believes that that number is of great significance. At the very end, the conclusion, he says that these 15 legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah are connected the 15 Shir Hamalot, David HaMelech, in order to bring up the waters, the Mayim HaTachtonim, or the Mayim Nukvim, recited 15 Shir Hamalot. And according to Rav Kook, these 15 legends of Rabbah Bar Hannah correspond to the 15 Shir Hamalot. So the way I broke up the material is I give you the legend in bold, then Rav Kook's commentary in plain, and opposite each legend is an illustration, which were commissioned for this work. A very gifted young woman by the name of Tamar Odenheimer, who graduated from Bezalel in Yerushalayim, who does animation. That's really what Tamar Odenheimer is all about. But I fell in love with her animation, and I figured that she would be the right one to illustrate the legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah. And then at the end of each chapter or legend, you have endnotes. There are also kabbalistic tables and charts. Here's a kabbalistic chart: Olamot, Partsufim, Sfirot, 5 levels of soul, 3 dimensions of Sefer Yetzirah. Here's a lexicon of kabbalistic technical terms. This apparatus was necessary in order to enable the reader to follow Rav Kook's drift. And then there are bibliographies upon bibliographies and indexes upon indexes. And, I want to talk a little about the artwork. Okay. That's something that is ordinary in the Haredi world. It's a radical departure. In fact, it's so radical that I felt that I have to justify it. So the way I justified it was, again, if you come in right to left, you're going to find the Sharblat of Maram Shif. Maram Shif, everyone knows, is a classic Talmudic commentator, one of the great Achronim. And lo and behold, he has a motif from one of the legends of Rabbah Bar Hannah as the frontispiece. So if it was kosher for Maram Shif, it's kosher for Bezalel Naor. I want to share with you an anecdote. This was written by Shmuel Kalman Mirsky, who grew up in Yerushalayim. Eventually, he landed on these shores. He was one of the scholars of Yeshiva University. You may have heard of his grandson, Yehuda Mirsky, who wrote a biography of Rav Kook. The grandfather, Shmuel Kalman Mirsky, was a great admirer of Rav Kook. As a young man in Yerushalayim, he came under the spell of Rav Kook, and he told this anecdote that one day he's walking down the street in Yerushalayim, and he meets another young man, and Mirsky starts to tell him all about Rav Kook, how great he is, and what a Gaon, and the other fellow stops him, cuts him short, and he says, I want to ask you a question. what Rav writes bichlach? Okay, what is a bichel? This is a very loaded Yiddish term. A bichel is a small book. It's a diminutive book. As opposed to a sefer, which is a classic rabbinic work, a bichel would usually be written by, if not an outright apikoros, but a maskil. The maskilim wrote bichlach, and these little books were kind of notorious. So when Mirsky started to sing the praise of Rav Kook, his counterpart said, "Give me a break. What Rav writes bichlach?" So there was something unique about the formatting of Rav Kook's form, not only the content, but we do judge books by their covers. So Rav Kook just arrived in the land in 1904. He wrote Eder HaYakar, Ikvei Etzon, and they were bichlach. They were deliberately formatted as bichlach because Rav Kook was going to take on this entire phenomenon of modernity. Okay, he was a very courageous soul, like Rebbe Nachman of Breslov before him, and he was going to stare the apikosim and the maskilim in the eyes. That's Rav Kook. He also was an art aficionado. I mentioned Bezalel. There's a letter of endorsement that Rav Kook wrote for Bezalel. When Boris Schatz founded the Bezalel Art Academy, Yerushalayim, he solicited from Rav Kook a letter, and Rav Kook wrote a wonderful hamlatza, an endorsement of Bezalel. According to Hermann Struck, who was a great artist, Rav Kook was conversant with different schools of art. That's what Hermann Struck reports. So I think it's, as they say in Yiddish, zugepas, it's fitting for Rav Kook, kach na'eh v'kach ya'eh, that his commentary to the Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah would be graced by these wonderful illustrations of Tamar Odenheimer. There was also what's known as hashgacha pratit, I call it serendipity or synchronicity. I didn't know Tamar Odenheimer. Somehow, just cruising the internet, I came across her animation, and we had a meeting in maybe Starbucks or some other eatery on the Upper West Side. She lives in Yerushalayim, but it just so happened she was coming to New York. It was before Thanksgiving, I remember. And we signed a contract. And at the end of the meeting, she said, "I want to ask you a question. How did you come to me?" I said, "I really don't know. I was just like one day I was like just, cruising surfing the net or whatever it's called." She said, "I want to reveal to you something." One moment. She said, "Unbeknown to you, as a little girl, I was raised on the Agadot Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah." She said, "We had the most amazing Rebbe in Yerushalayim, and he set it to music, and then she began to sing for me. I know it's Kol Isha, but okay. In the Aramaic original, there's a legend about a frog, a kroktad, and she began to sing for me in Aramaic the Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah, which she had imbibed as a little girl from her Rebbe. Amazing Rebbe used to strum the guitar and teach them Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu mezaveg zivukim. It's unbelievable. I'm on one side of the ocean, she's on the other side of the ocean. We don't know each other at all, and we came together for this purpose. Now, in order to properly research Rav Kook's commentary, I had to familiarize myself with earlier commentaries to see if perhaps Rav Kook had borrowed from earlier Kabbalists. And I came across a wonderful commentary, Imre Noam. And you know, the Vilna Gaon wrote very few haskamot. These are rabbinical approbations to a book. You can count on one hand, literally, the haskamot of the Vilna Gaon. And one of them is to Imre Noam, which is an obscure kabbalistic commentary to the Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah. And when I began to look into it more closely, I discovered that this is the only haskama that the Vilna Gaon ever gave to a sefer. As I said, altogether there may be 4 or 5, but the others are ad hominem. You know, they're on the gavra, not on the chefza. One was to the Bala Pardes, as he was called, Yaakov, shalom, thank you for coming, Aryeh Leib Epstein of Königsberg, who was the ancestor of the Chazon Ish and Shaul Lieberman, you know, through Shaul Katzenellenbogen. Anyway, he was a great Kabbalist who was a contemporary of the Vilna Gaon. And the Vilna Gaon wrote for him Askama, but it's not on the Sfarim, it's on the man. He trusted the man, Aryeh Leib Epstein, the Bala Pardes of Königsberg. And then there's one for Rabbi Yonason Eibschitz, which Schneur Lyman doesn't believe is authentic, and others. But when I boiled it down, I discovered that the only haskama the Vilna Gaon ever wrote for a sefer per se, not for the author, but for the work, was this Imre Noam, on Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah. And eventually I want to read to you a beautiful passage from the Imre Noam. The irony is it reads almost like a Hasidic work. That's a great irony. This is the only sefer that the Gaon, the Gra, was ever maskim on, and when you hear it, you say, this sounds Hasidic to me. So maybe we don't understand very well who the Vilna Gaon was. We may have we may be prejudiced. Another work I came across is Motzei Mayim by a contemporary of Rav Kook. His name was Chaim Hirschenson. And he lived not too far from here. He was the Rav of Hoboken, Bahagalil. You know how Rav Kook was the Rav of Yafo Moshavod. So Chaim Hirschenson, who was a Yerushalmi once upon a time, ended up in New Jersey, was the Rav of Hoboken Bahagalil. You know, the surrounding, you know, so it's not only Hoboken, it's Weehawken, and, you know, and so on and so forth. That was written in the 20s. It's a Zionist work, and there's a lot about Rav Kook in there. Hirschenson was a great admirer of Rav Kook. And in his commentary to Agadot Rabbah Bar Hannah, which is a Zionist polemic, there are pages and pages about Rav Kook. I want to share with you something that I translated from Rav Kook, which I think will convey the flavor of Rav Kook's commentary. You see, it's all about tikkunei neshamot. That's how Rav Kook understood it. That's how earlier the Imre Noam understood it. That these legends, each one is to fix, to mend, to correct some tragic flaw in a human being. And we human beings have many different foibles. In one of his journals, Rav Kook wrote, "The mending of souls, tikkunei neshamot, is one of the most exalted visions of the hidden world. A healthy soul, accustomed to the theoretical visions, while provided with the powerful ethical education, lucid intellect, takes interest in it with a pure passion. The actions are but the outer sides of a corrupted or corrected soul. True, deeds do play a part in correction or corruption, but the main corruption is essential, just as the main correction is essential. The soul essence can be in a pure, bright state, ready for life and eternity, or it can be in a dark, somber state, whereby the living, enlightened world will be the opposite of its essence. In that case, the soul longs to destroy, to break and ruin everything, because all that is good is opposite her, and this opposition stabs her from every side. And the more her essence is revealed in her midst, the more her pain grows, the more she sees with an open eye that all opposes her, and goes in a direction opposite her own. This is the lot of a castaway soul whose pain is unending. And the pure heart revealed in the best of humans is aroused to take pity on her. This very arousal already extends to her an essential spiritual psychic current, the current proceeding from a source of strong life, from a spring of freedom and good choice, mixes with the torn essence, sinking in the maelstrom of iniquity and the depth of pain and Weltschmerz, and calms her churning waves, mollifies and comforts her, arousing in her the sparks of light hidden in her midst, until she acquires a new existence and returns to the days of her youth, before sin clouded her countenance. The desire to mend souls advances and expands in the pure heart full of the mysteries of purity. It breaks down all the barriers, broadens the borders, and ascends to the great sea of the collective soul of the nation, suffering from the evil habits that darken her beauty. The desire to mend souls turns to the collective soul of humanity, and to the soul of the beast, and to the living soul of the world of action. In the very place where there is revealed freedom, there lies in wait the serpent of destruction and obliteration, and the pure spirit longs to do good to all, to make all pleasant. And the longing arouses a powerful will, hidden and concealed. Stealthily it penetrates, turning eternities of desert and desolation to the Eden of God's garden. So that really sets the tone for what Rav Kook is trying to do in this work. As I said, he's not the first Kabbalist to engage in this. Earlier mentioned Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. He's all about tikkunei neshamot. He's trying to fix souls. And that's how he reads these 15 legends of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah. Now, as I told you, before Rav Kook, there was this earlier commentary, Imre Noam, which merited the Haskama of the Vilna Gaon. And I want to read to you a passage from the Imre Noam. And I think you'll see some similarities between what he's doing and what Rav Kook is doing. It's all about tikkunei neshamot. It's entitled Seafarers, those wise men who engage in investigating the worlds. Whether it be the deeds of mortal men and the affairs of this world, referred to as the sea, or the depth of the klipot, the forces of impurity, also called the depths of the sea, such sages are termed by Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah seafarers, Yordei Hayam, or in Aramaic, Nechutei Yama. Just as the sages of blessed memory coined the term descenders of the chariot, Yordei Merkava, which is to say that they descend in their intellect to the depth of the matter. In the same vein, they said of Rabbi Meir that his colleagues did not descend to the limit of his opinion. Lo yardu l'sof da'ato. Likewise, Rabbi Natan descended to the depth of the law. Nachit la'omka d'dinan. There are also people who are knowledgeable of the deeds of men, good and evil, because they themselves once committed this very sin. And now that they have returned from their evil path, they are familiar with the nature of the wicked, for there is none as wise as the master of experience, and chacham kebal nisayon. Such people too are referred to effectively as seafarers, the reason being that when they sin, they lower the sparks of their souls into the midst of the klipot, called the depths of the sea. God protect us. Thus, these people are called seafarers, and when they rise up from there, they recount their former deeds, following the example of Rabbi Akiva, who said, when I was an ignoramus, right, when I was an Am Haaretz, if I found a Talmid Chacham, I would bite him, break his bones. And then he went on to become the great Rabbi Akiva. Now, after they beheld all this, the aforementioned wise men dressed those things in parable, as is the wont of all riddlers, who hide their meanings and communicate by way of story and clue. However, the parables and figures of speech are communicable only to a wise man capable of comprehending on his own the words of the wise and their riddles. By this I mean one who has himself paid attention to the affairs of the world, or has himself made the rounds of the world, visiting many places and lands, and observing many goings-on, be they good or evil. Someone who has these qualifications will easily comprehend the underlying meaning of a given riddle or parable, for he is conversant with the nature of the world and the deeds of the generation. This is the import of Rabbah Bar Bar Hannah's statement, seafarers related to me. Ishta'u li nechutayama. Specifically to me, which is to say that language, that narrative, in which the wise men, referred to as seafarers, dressed their intentions, is worthy of me specifically, because I too grasp the affairs of the higher worlds. Like them, the pathways of heaven are familiar to me. I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom the affairs of the creations that obtain in this lowly world. In addition, I actually wandered to distant seas and deserts, and I've seen all the works that are done under the sun. Today I am on a par with them. Therefore they're recounted to me and to no other, for I hear. So, as I told you, to me there's a great irony here. This is the only work that the Vilna Gaon put his imprimatur on, and it sounds very Hasidic. You know, we usually associate this kind of thinking with the great Hasidic masters. So, as I said, maybe we have to rethink who the Vilna Gaon is. Maybe we really got him pegged wrong. He got a lot of bad press. Now, Kabbalah is divided in two. There's what's known as Kabbalah Iyunit and Kabbalah Ma'asit. That's the theoretical Kabbalah and the practical Kabbalah. And usually we associate Rav Kook with Kabbalah Iyunit. He's a great theoretician of Kabbalah. You know, he's juggling all these olamot, these worlds. But there is the Edut, the testimony of his son, Rav Tzvi, whom I had the privilege of knowing in Yerushalayim many years ago, when I was a young man, that in Yafo, Rav Kook performed an exorcism of a dibuk. Okay. Now, dibukim have a long history. It goes all the way back. You know, the Kanaim in Yerushalayim used to refer to Rav Kook as Oto Haish, you know that. But the true Oto Haish in the NT, there's a story of an exorcism. Oto Haish exercised a dibuk. You know, and then in our tradition, we have Reb Chanina ben Dosa, and throughout the ages, the sages have been they've been exercising dibukim. The Chafetz Chaim was famous for that. His Talmud, Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, and his yeshiva in Branovich, every Purim. In fact, I heard this from a student of Rabbi Chanan who studied in his Masifta in Branovich. Every Purim, Rabbi Chanan would tell the story of how he was one of the minyan that were present when the Chafetz Chaim did an exorcism. Now today we would probably call a lot of these cases of dibukim Tourette's syndrome. Before I came here, I quickly tried to research Tourette's syndrome, and it looks like it baffles the medical community. So basically, we just traded nomenclature. What used to be called a dibuk is now called Tourette's syndrome. Not that we understand what Tourette's syndrome is. No more than we understood what a dibuk is. But since the whole theme of the book, as I see it, is tikkunei neshamot, mending souls, so therefore I couldn't resist including, as the very first appendix to the book, this case. Here, it's Appendix 1. It's entitled Baruch Haba Senor, Rav Kook and the Dibuk in Jaffa. And again, this is from an Adriya, an eyewitness, Rav Kook's son, Rav Tzvi Yehuda, who was a young man at the time. And he wrote this to the Talmid Muvhak of Rav Kook, Rav Yaakov Moshe Chalab, whose yahrzeit was not so long ago. Zayin Kislev, and it's a very cute case because this is a Sephardic Jew who's speaking Ladino, and when Rav Kook arrives on the scene, he says Baruch Haba Senor. So it's very cute. It's cross-cultural, and we can add that to the literature on dibukim, and as I said today, we have a whole literature on Tourette's syndrome. Did anyone here ever meet someone who suffers from Tourette's syndrome? Yeah, I met an adolescent girl who very sweet girl. Every couple of minutes, such vulgarities would come out of her mouth, involuntarily, and it kind of fits the picture of the dibuk. And so I think we said some Torah along the way. Hopefully, it wasn't all shtus about Voldem. I'm going to say Kaddish Drabanan. We have a minyan. And let me just get my siddur. And then what I'm not sure which way to face. Does anybody know?
That way.
This way? Okay. And so this shiur, this was the Ilui Nishmat Abraham ben Bezalel, who was a dear friend, and as you said, his son Rabbi Eliyahu was a Talmud of mine. I'm his Talmud by now. You know how that works. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, נעמד ברכיותיו, ימליך מלכותיו, ויצמח בו קנה ויקרב משיחי, בחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קרב, ואמרו אמן. ישמי רבה וברך לעולם, לעולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שבית הקודשה ברכו, לעולם וכל ברכתה ושכרתה תשבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. וישראל והרבנם ועל תלמידיהם ועל כל תלמידי הון ועל כל מן דעסקין באורייתא דבתרא הדין, ודי בכל התאוותה יהא להון ולכון שלמה רבה, חינה וכסתברח מחיין אריכין ומזונה ובפיחה, ופורקנה מקדם אבונה דבשמיא ואמרו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיים וחיים טוב עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ואמרו אמן, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.